My name's Elliot, I'm 26, and I've learned the hard way that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the first to throw you out when things go wrong. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, the kind with one grocery store, two stoplights, and a tight-knit community where everyone knows your business before you do. Our house was a modest two-story place on a quiet street with a chipped white picket fence and an old oak tree in the backyard. It wasn't big or fancy, but it was home, or at least it used to feel that way. My dad, John, was a high school math teacher, strict but fair, a man of few words who believed in hard work and routine. My mom, Lisa, was a nurse at the local hospital. She worked long shifts, came home tired, but always made sure we had dinner on the table. They weren't wealthy by any means, but they gave us everything we needed. Not always what we wanted, but we never went without. And then there was Gemma, my older sister by 3 years. When we were little, we were inseparable. We'd spend hours outside climbing that big oak tree, pretending it was a castle or a spaceship. She always made up the stories, the rules, the roles. I just followed along, happy to be included. She had this big, bright personality that drew people in. Teachers, neighbors, everyone adored her. I was quieter, the kid who got lost in books and daydreams, always in her shadow. As we got older, the gap between us widened. Gemma was the golden child, top of her class, captain of the debate team, full-ride scholarship to a prestigious university. She knew exactly what she wanted and chased it like her life depended on it. And she always caught it. I, on the other hand, didn't have it figured out. I did okay in school, not great. I stayed local, went to community college while trying to sort out what I wanted to do with my life. I worked part-time at the grocery store, took odd jobs when I could. I wasn't lazy, I was just lost. And in a family like mine, that meant something. The praise came easy for Gemma. Every report card, every new internship, every Instagram-worthy milestone, she was the star. My parents were proud of me too, in that vague, we love you no matter what kind of way. But they never bragged about me, never talked about my part-time promotions, never asked about my classes unless I brought it up. It was clear who they saw as going places. Still, I didn't resent her, not then. I told myself that families have dynamics, that every group has a star and a supporter, and I figured that was my role, to be the quiet one, the easy one, the one who didn't need the spotlight to feel valued. But what I didn't realize back then was how dangerous it is to let yourself believe you matter less, because the moment things fall apart, and they will, you find out just how replaceable you really are to the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally. I didn't know then that the house I grew up in, the people I trusted most, would turn their backs on me over a lie that would cost me everything. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, one of those deceptively quiet days where you think nothing can go wrong. I had the day off from my part-time job at the grocery store. Gemma was home for the week, visiting to start planning her wedding with Mom. I remember hearing their laughter drifting up from the kitchen as they came back from a shopping trip. I was upstairs in my room playing video games with the door cracked open. The house felt unusually warm that day, filled with the buzz of planning, excitement, and chatter I wasn't part of. An hour passed, then a scream shattered the calm. "Where is it? Where the hell is it?" Gemma's voice echoed up the stairs, sharp and panicked. I bolted down, heart racing, thinking someone had gotten hurt. I found her in the kitchen, wild-eyed and pacing. My engagement ring is gone." She pointed to the kitchen counter. "I took it off to do the dishes, right there. It was sitting right here, and now it's gone." I was still trying to process what she was saying when her eyes locked onto mine. "You were the only one home, Elliot." I froze. "What?" "Number Gemma, I didn't even know it was there. I didn't touch anything. You're lying," she snapped. "You've always been jealous. You can't stand that I have my life together, that I have Tom, that I'm happy." My ears rang, my brain couldn't catch up. She wasn't just accusing me, she was already convinced I was guilty. I stammered, trying to explain that I hadn't left my room, that I hadn't even known the ring was off her finger. But none of it mattered. The rage in her eyes told me the verdict had already been delivered. By the time Mom and Dad came home, the storm had already hit. Gemma rushed to them, sobbing, spinning the story like it was gospel. "He took it. I know he did. I left it right there. He was the only one home." And just like that, they believed her. No hesitation, no questions. My mother burst into tears, asking how I could betray my own sister. My dad didn't yell. He didn't need to. The disappointment on his face was louder than any scream. They tore through my room, tossed open drawers, emptied boxes, flipped through my clothes like I was some stranger off the street. They didn't find the ring, of course, but they found my savings, a few $100s I'd squirreled away in an envelope behind my bookshelf. Gemma pounced. "See? He sold it. That's the money." "No," I said, my voice cracking. "I've been saving for months. I was thinking of enrolling in night classes." But they didn't hear me. Or maybe they did and chose not to care. In the days that followed, the house became unbearable. Every conversation turned into an interrogation. Every glance felt like a judgment. They demanded confessions, threatened to call the police, called me ungrateful, a thief, a disgrace. And through it all, I kept insisting I didn't do it. But truth didn't matter in that house anymore. All that mattered was Gemma's word, and that word cost me everything. A week after the accusation, my parents told me to leave. It wasn't some emotional outburst or heat-of-the-moment threat. It was calm, decided, final. "You need to pack your things and go, Elliot," my dad said flatly, arms crossed like he was talking to a stranger, not his son. "We can't have you here anymore. Not until you're ready to admit what you did." I remember standing in the middle of the living room, our living room, where I'd watched cartoons as a kid, opened Christmas presents, celebrated birthdays, and feeling like the floor had disappeared beneath me. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I just stood there, heart pounding, watching as my mother avoided my eyes and Gemma pretended not to be listening from the stairs. They gave me 2 days, 48 hours to pack up a life. I shoved what I could into an old duffel bag, some clothes, my laptop, a few books. I didn't take much. Honestly, I didn't want reminders. I left behind childhood photos, posters from high school, old yearbooks. What good were memories when the people in them had turned their backs on me? As I zipped the bag shut, I saw Gemma standing at her bedroom window, arms folded. Our eyes met, just for a second. I thought I saw something there. Regret, maybe? Doubt? But then she turned away, and that was that. I stepped out of the only home I had ever known, into a world that suddenly felt colder than I ever imagined. With nowhere to go, I texted the only person I could think of, Ryan, my best friend from high school. He'd recently moved back to town after serving in the army, and by some miracle, he answered right away. "You can crash here for a while," he said. "It's not much, but the couch is yours." That couch became my lifeline. His apartment was barely big enough for one person, let alone two. But Ryan didn't hesitate. He gave me a blanket, a key, and something even more important. Someone who believed me. The first few nights, I didn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything. My own family had exiled me. My sister had framed me. My parents hadn't even asked for my side of the story. I wasn't just betrayed, I was erased. Money was tight. I took whatever odd jobs I could find, dishwashing at a diner, helping an old guy move furniture, dog walking in freezing winter mornings. I skipped meals. I slept with my hoodie on because the apartment's heat barely worked, but I never stopped trying. Eventually, I landed a steady gig at a warehouse on the edge of town. It wasn't glamorous, but the work was honest. Heavy lifting, night shifts, sore muscles, and long hours. Still, the paycheck came on time, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something close to stable. After a month, I scraped together enough to rent a room in a shared house with a few other warehouse guys. It wasn't much, just a mattress on the floor and a lamp from Goodwill, but it was mine. And that mattered more than anyone could understand. I was building a new life, brick by brick, dollar by dollar, with no help, no support, no family. I missed them. That's the part people don't always get. Even after what they did, after they threw me out like garbage, I still miss them. I miss the comfort of familiarity, the smell of mom's cooking, dad's awkward jokes, even the stupid way Gemma hummed while brushing her hair. But I couldn't go back. Not after what they believed. Not after what they did. So I kept working, kept saving, kept going. Because if no one else was going to believe in me, I had to believe in myself. And slowly, painfully, I began to rebuild. 3 years had passed since the day I walked out of my parents' house with a backpack and a broken heart. In those years, I had gone from couch surfing to managing a shift at the warehouse. I'd signed up for online business courses and had just saved enough to start looking for my own place. No roommates this time. My world was far from perfect, but it was mine. My world was far from perfect, but it was mine. I didn't know what I was walking into. Apologies, excuses, tears. They showed up 10 minutes late. My mom looked older than I remembered. Her hair more gray, her shoulders more slumped. My dad walked like someone carrying the weight of years he couldn't take back. Gemma trailed behind them, her eyes locked on the floor. No one spoke at first, just awkward smiles. My mother blinked back tears. My father's face was lined with guilt. And Gemma, she couldn't even look at me. "I'm sorry," my mom said, her voice trembling. "We failed you." They all spoke at once after that, like they were racing to fill the silence they'd left me in for 3 years. My father admitted he let his disappointment cloud his judgment. My mother said she'd replayed that day over and over in her mind, wishing she'd stopped Gemma from pointing fingers. And Gemma, when she finally spoke, crumbled in front of me. She said she was ashamed, that she had let stress and pride blind her, that she didn't mean for things to spiral the way they did. "I didn't just lose a brother," she whispered. "I destroyed him." The pain in her voice was real, but so was mine. I listened, I nodded, I didn't yell, but when my mom asked if she could hug me, I stepped back. I wasn't ready, not yet. I told them I appreciated the apology, but forgiveness wasn't automatic. They wanted things to go back to normal. But there's no going back when someone's shown you how easily they can throw you away. I left the coffee shop that day more confused than ever. Part of me wanted to believe them, to imagine Sunday dinners, holidays, laughter. I missed that life. I missed them. But another part of me remembered the cold silence, the accusations, the night I packed my bag and left my childhood behind. So I set boundaries, weekly check-ins, short calls, small steps. I told Gemma I couldn't have a relationship with her right now. Not because I hated her, but because I needed to protect what little peace I had left. She cried, she begged, but I didn't bend. I started therapy, something I never thought I'd do. Talking to someone about everything, about the betrayal, the years of being compared to Gemma, the emptiness of being the family scapegoat. It helped. And slowly, I began to heal. My mom still calls every Sunday. Sometimes we talk for 5 minutes, sometimes 20. We don't talk about that day. Not yet, but we talk. My dad emails me random articles, just like he did when I was a kid. It's awkward, but it's something. Gemma texts now and then. I reply when I can. Mostly I don't. I've learned something important. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about letting go of the weight someone else put on you and deciding what you're willing to carry forward. 3 years ago, they kicked me out like I didn't matter. Now they're asking for a second chance, and maybe, someday, I'll give them one. But on my terms, because I'm not the same Elliot they pushed away. I'm stronger now, wiser, and finally, free. It's been nearly 6 months since that awkward coffee shop meeting with my family. 6 months since they said we're sorry, and I told them it wasn't enough. Not yet. Since then, things have been quiet. Not cold, just cautious. My mom calls every Sunday like we agreed. The first few weeks were clumsy. She'd talk about the weather, hospital gossip, or recipes she was trying. Safe topics. No mention of what happened. No talk of Gemma, just small things, but they mattered. Little by little, her voice started to sound less like a stranger's and more like the woman who used to tuck me in at night. My dad sends emails, just short ones. Last week, he forwarded me an article about a new distribution center being built in our hometown. "Looks like your field?" he wrote. That was it. No fluff, no forced sentiment. But it reminded me of the old days, when he'd cut out newspaper clippings for me in high school, proud even when I didn't notice. And Gemma, she's still trying. Too much, if I'm being honest. She sends long, emotional messages almost weekly. Apologies, explanations, updates about her life. Sometimes she shares old photos of us as kids, climbing trees, blowing out birthday candles, laughing like nothing could break us. I don't always respond. When I do, it's brief, civil, distant, because I haven't decided what place, if any, she still holds in my life. I started therapy 2 months ago. Walking into that office the first time was like standing at the edge of a cliff, terrified of the fall, but more afraid of staying stuck where I was. My therapist specializes in family trauma. She doesn't sugarcoat anything, and that's what I need. We're unpacking years of silence, comparison, and conditional love. And it's exhausting, but it's working. I've begun to understand that the ring incident wasn't just a one-time betrayal. It was the breaking point in a family dynamic that had always placed Gemma on a pedestal and left me in the shadows. That realization hurts, but it also frees me. I'm learning to draw real boundaries, not just with them, but with myself. To stop chasing approval. To stop believing that if I just do a little more, give a little more, maybe they'll finally love me the way I always wanted. Instead, I'm starting to define love on my own terms. And funny enough, in the process of letting go, I've begun to find my people. The guys I live with, warehouse coworkers who started off as roommates, have become something close to family. We barbecue on weekends, complain about our supervisors, and laugh about the dumbest things. They don't care about my past. They care that I show up, pull my weight, and bring decent beer to poker night. My best friend Ryan, the one who took me in when no one else would, has been a rock. He even offered to come with me to any future family dinners if I ever wanted backup. That offer meant more than any apology I've gotten this year. Work's going well, too. I recently got promoted to inventory lead, a fancy way of saying I keep things organized and running. It's not glamorous, but it's honest. I show up, I do the work, I get paid, and for the first time in a long time, that's enough. I've been saving steadily, and I'm finally thinking about moving into my own place. No more shared bathrooms or roommates who forget to take out the trash. Just me, my space, my rules. There are still hard days. Days when a certain song, or a whiff of my mom's old perfume on a stranger, or a family laughing in the grocery store hits me harder than I'd like to admit. On those days, I grieve what I lost. Not just the years, but the belief that family always means safety. But more and more, I'm learning something else. Sometimes family isn't who raised you. It's who shows up when the world falls apart. And sometimes choosing peace isn't selfish, it's survival. Whatever comes next, I know one thing for sure. I'm no longer the kid they kicked out. I'm a man rebuilding from ashes, and I'm finally starting to feel whole. 6 months after rebuilding the pieces of my life, an email arrived that once again shook everything up. It was from a logistics company in St. Louis. They had seen my resume on a job site I barely remembered uploading and wanted to offer me a position. Operations manager, full-time, with benefits. Health insurance. A 401k, paid vacation. It was a career move I never thought someone like me would be offered. I wasn't used to being seen as qualified. For years, I wasn't even seen. At first, I thought there had to be a mistake. I reread the offer twice. Then I sat back and stared at my chipped apartment wall, the same one I'd stared at every night while piecing my life back together. I'd made peace with the quiet life I'd built. My warehouse job was steady, my roommates were tolerable, my routines were mine. But something about this offer felt different, like it was calling out to the version of me I hadn't met yet, the one who wasn't just surviving, but actually living. I brought it up with my therapist. She asked, "What scares you more, staying where you are or finding out who you could become?" That question hit harder than anything. We talked for weeks about the move, about what it meant to walk away, not from failure, but from safety. Not from family, but from the identity I had carried since being wrongfully cast out. When I told my parents about the offer, their reaction was exactly what I feared and everything I expected. My mom cried. "I thought we'd have more time to heal," she said, voice cracking through the phone. My dad was quiet, then finally said, "I'm proud of you. I hope this is a good thing." Gemma? She didn't text. She showed up, unannounced, in front of my apartment door, clutching her keys like she had something to say that might change everything. "Elliot, please don't go," she said, tears already forming. "I feel like I'm losing you all over again." I looked at her, the same sister who once accused me of stealing the most precious thing in her life, and in doing so, took everything from mine. I need this, I said. Not because I'm running away, but because I'm finally ready to move forward. And I need to do that without being your shadow. She cried harder, whispering that she understood, but I think we both knew she didn't, at least not fully. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I just closed it gently behind me. And then I started packing. Not just clothes and books, but memories too. The photo of me and Ryan at a baseball game. The printout of my first paycheck as a supervisor. A note my therapist gave me that said, "You are not what they did to you." Moving day came quicker than I expected. I rented a U-Haul, loaded it with everything I owned, most of which fit in the back with room to spare, and hit the road. As I left my little Ohio town behind, I watched familiar streets blur into distance. It felt like exhaling for the first time in years. The drive to St. Louis was quiet. Just me. The hum of the tires and a playlist I'd made for the occasion. Songs that once made me cry now felt like triumph anthems. My new apartment is small but bright. Clean hardwood floors. A tiny balcony that faces west so I can watch the sunset while I sip coffee in the evenings. My first night here, I sat on an air mattress surrounded by boxes, staring at the skyline through the window, and for once, I didn't feel like something was missing. I felt whole. The job is intense, but I love it. I'm learning, growing, managing people who look to me with trust, not suspicion. For the first time, I don't flinch when someone says, "You're doing great." I just say thank you, and mean it. I don't know what's next for me and my family. We're still talking sometimes. I still get Sunday calls from my mom, and I let Gemma text, though I don't always reply. Forgiveness isn't a finish line, it's a path, and right now I'm walking it, but not for them. For me, because starting over isn't about forgetting the past. It's about finally choosing yourself, even if it means starting alone. And for the first time in 3 years, I'm not afraid of being alone. I'm excited to see where this road leads. It's been almost a year since I moved to St. Louis, and some nights, I still wake up wondering if any of it was real. Not the betrayal, not the pain, but the fact that I made it through. This new life I've built, on my own terms, doesn't look like much from the outside. A one-bedroom apartment, a second-hand couch, a job that demands more than it pays. But to me, it's freedom. It's proof. Proof that I wasn't who they said I was when they kicked me out. Proof that surviving isn't the same as thriving, and I'm finally learning the difference. My therapist once told me, some wounds don't close just because the bleeding stops. You have to stitch them, clean them, check on them. Healing is intentional. I didn't get it then. I do now. Because even after the apologies, the phone calls, the slow re-entry of my family into my life, I still carry that scar. I don't say that with bitterness, just truth. I'm no longer angry every day. I don't cry myself to sleep like I used to. I don't replay the moment Gemma accused me over and over, wondering what I could have said to make her believe me. That kind of torture stopped when I realized the answer. Nothing. I couldn't have said anything. They were never listening to me in the first place. That's what hurt the most. Not the accusation, but the silence that followed it. The way my parents looked at me, not with confusion or concern, but with disgust, like they'd been waiting for proof that I'd fail them. And once they had it, they threw me out like a broken thing. But now I know I was never broken. I was betrayed, and betrayal teaches you something powerful, how to rebuild. A few weeks ago, Gemma sent me a letter, a real one, handwritten. She said she knows she has no right to ask for anything, but she wants to see me, not to fix the past, but to start something new. She wrote, "I've spent 3 years hoping you'd forgive me. I realize now I never earned it. I didn't believe in you when it mattered most, but I believe in you now." I haven't replied yet, not because I'm still angry, but because I'm still healing. I talk to my parents more now. Every Sunday, like clockwork, my mom calls. Sometimes we talk about nothing, weather, traffic, the Cardinals game. Other times, we talk about the hard stuff. She tells me she keeps my room the same, that she hasn't forgiven herself. I tell her I don't know if I ever will. And that's okay. We sit in the discomfort together, and that's what healing looks like sometimes, sitting in the mess without trying to wipe it clean. I don't know what the future holds with them. I've stopped trying to script the ending, but I do know this. I'm proud of who I am. Not in spite of what happened, but because of how I responded to it. I didn't let the worst moment of my life define me. I let it shape me into someone stronger, someone softer, someone who knows his own worth. That's what I want anyone watching this to know. Whether you've been pushed out by family, betrayed by people who were supposed to protect you, or left to pick up the pieces of someone else's mistake, it's not the end. It might feel like it. But you are more than what they did to you. You are allowed to start over. You are allowed to say no to people who only love you when you're useful. You are allowed to take up space, demand respect, and walk away from a table that no longer has room for you. Forgiveness? It's not for them, it's for you. And peace? Sometimes peace is found not in reconciliation, but in finally choosing yourself. That's what I've done. And for the first time in a long, long time, I'm not just surviving, I'm living. Elliot's story isn't just about a ring. It's not even just about being falsely accused or kicked out of the only home he ever knew. It's about something deeper, something painfully familiar to so many of us. It's about what happens when the people you trust most turn their backs on you, and how you rebuild when everything you relied on collapses. The most powerful lesson here: you don't owe anyone your silence just to keep the peace. Too often, especially in American families, we're taught to be the bigger person, to let it go, to keep the family together. But what happens when keeping quiet means losing yourself, when forgiveness is expected before accountability is even acknowledged? Elliot's journey reminds us that setting boundaries isn't betrayal, it's survival. He didn't walk away out of spite. He walked away to protect his peace. And even when his family came back with apologies, he didn't rush back into the arms that had pushed him out. He paused. He healed. He made decisions on his terms. That's something we can all take with us. Whether you've been the quiet one, the black sheep, or simply someone whose voice was never heard, this story proves that you're not alone. And more importantly, it proves that you're allowed to start over. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to rebuild a life where you are loved not for your obedience or your usefulness, but for who you are. So, if you're standing at your own crossroads, torn between keeping the peace and keeping your self-respect, choose yourself. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. And remember, real love includes respect. Real family listens, supports, and accepts, even when it's uncomfortable. If Elliot's story moved you, made you reflect, or helped you feel seen, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe to our channel, Reddit Family Files, for more true stories that speak truth, healing, and real-life growth. Because your story matters, and you're not alone.